I have to do it slowly and pick out the right ones. And that's what come up for me. So it's very, yeah, it's a long process. It's a weedy garden.
Yeah, sometimes even when I think about
Don't know
the
if any of that makes sense.
yeah, sometimes when I think about like the weediness of the garden of the government, I sometimes think like, should I even really plant seeds in this landscape or just go plant them somewhere else? And like makes a garden that's so great that everyone wants to leave that weedy garden that has barbed wire and fences everywhere. But I mean, yeah, it's like a quote from Buckminster Fuller really stands out to me in that aspect, in that like I think that it's something along the lines of like just the only way to change, you can't fight the old, you can only make something that's so great and resonant that it makes the old non-relevant anymore. Just like no one would even think to participate in it. So I think we're doing that in a lot of ways, but I understand how
Yeah.
those weeds are, at the very least, they're like kind of like hanging over into our garden no matter what we can do. We're gonna like chop them off at the fence as they like get into our space. So I can resonate with that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does anyone
Yeah.
else have anything to add as it pertains to their garden? Cool. We're gonna move right forward then. Um, I really do feel a strong sense of creating life into somewhat of a story and really defining that purpose and defining that mission. And to do so, it's important to visualize our life in that way and then look into our past and be like, how has our hero's story kind of come to fruition and evolves? Um, what is it? Where do we come from? What's changed us and what has brought us to this point here today where we're sitting in a room full of people who I believe to be superheroes, who are passionate enough to change the world in such a way that they're sitting here at 11 a.m. on a weekend, talking about making our life more green. So we're going to do one more closed eye visualization exercise, if you will. We're just going to close our eyes and breathe again. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And taking a deep breath in, letting it all out. And now I want you to, or I invite you to, visualize a mirror in front of you. And when you look into that mirror, I invite you to see what you envision to be as your superhero self, your ultimate archetype, that which is the best version of you as you see it. What do they look like? What clothes are they wearing? Where are they? How do they carry themselves? Breathing in, holding that visualization, imagining that embodiment getting larger, becoming Super Saiyan, smiling confidently, brightly, knowingly, knowing that this is you. Taking one more deep breath in and letting it out. Taking a deep breath in and letting it out. And opening our eyes. Would anybody like to share any experience or anything that came up from the experience of their super embodiment of themselves? I'm down to go first. I when I look into the mirror, I am kind of this like shaman, priestess, warrior with a pretty epic like crown thing, and the feeling that I experience is just like absolute empowerment. In that like I just realize my potential is unlimited, and I am excited when I experience that those kind of states, and I'm able to bring them into my waking reality so that I can get my head out of like my sorrows or my glooms and kind of be activated in such a way that I want to keep doing the things I'm doing. So um, I want to open this opportunity to, if you do feel called to share of um, what your hero looks like, I invite you to share. Or also, I invite you to share an activity that some of us have been doing in regards to the hero's story, in which we envision our life in such a way where there's an origin, where we came from, the normalcy of our life, the departure into the adventure, into the risk, into the new way of thinking or being, and the return, coming back with a new sense of light and, you know, taking the lessons that we've learned from our adventure into changing the world around us. So we can be anywhere in that state, in that process right now, and we can run through that process multiple times of origin, adventure, return. However, I do invite any of you to perhaps share what your experience is with this story, so that we can get a sense of who we are and where we're coming from. Is anybody called to share?
I'll share, but I'm kind of new to this too. I'm new to the program and new to thinking like this. And when I was thinking about my warrior self, I was thinking, here's this big bulldozer or locomotive coming right at it and knocking everything out of the way. And that's really not what I want to be. I want to be more of a calm and effective person. I mean, people don't want to hear a bunch of people telling them and pushing them and pushing them. And I hate to be that, but I'm just naturally that person. And I want to be a more calm person. And when I do something or ask for people to help me, I don't want to be twisting their arm into it. I want them to want to do it. And I want to develop the skill to be able to be the person I was envisioning was like a calm hippie person from the 70s, which is, you know, maybe had a little joint in my hand or whatever, you know, just nice and calm, and everybody just naturally followed and everybody was enjoying what we were doing. So that's going to be a big goal for me.
I'm so inspired by your visualization, Susan, honestly, like just to I think that we're conditioned in a certain sense to think of superheroes as this like fighter, like go get him, beat up the bad guy kind of like mentality. And that's just the condition we've received from growing up in a world that prioritizes military industrial complex and things of that nature. But like, yeah, to change that visualization from some kind of fighter, just kind of this embodiment of peace and just like happiness and joy. I'm inspired to take that into the way that I visualize myself now. Honestly, that's great.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll divulge a little bit of my vision as I was envisaging my warrior self. I was wearing a fig leaf and I was in the Garden of Eden, and I had no fear, and I intend to make everywhere around me my Garden of Eden. So that was what I envisaged. I can't even speak today. It's been a heavy week. And my hero's journey, I'm not quite ready to divulge that as yet. So I'm working on that.
He's a hero in hiding. Yeah.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind was much different than when I was asked to look into the mirror, and coming to terms with it was a neat exercise in that moment. So, I definitely saw the Western industrial complex of it. And then when I looked into the mirror, I did not fit that prescription and quickly manifested into this alter ego that has been with me since childhood, which is tall man, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. It is something that was told to me at a very young age in a Native American storytelling process about who they were and what they did and why they had to go to the woods, because humanity could not deal with being held accountable to the ethos of right relationships. And they had broken everything within the tribe. And rather than change their behavior, they ran Tall Man out of the community. And he just had relationships with the ecosystem, the environment. And that's why they can't be found or seen. That's why we mythicize who they are. And I've only recently been called out to deal with adults. I've been a public school educator who's primarily focused on junior high school and high school students, and just have a much better, deeper connection with them, and they're more willing to explore what I say as opposed to argue about it, because I'm not interested in arguing about it. It's really up to people to do the work and figure out what right relationships look like for them. And I only want to show them the direction. They have to figure out the path for themselves. And so I'm working towards that. And I apologize for being late. I was planting trees though, so hopefully that makes up for it. And I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it completely makes up for it. I mean, all you missed was us visualizing planting seeds in our internal landscape. So the fact that you were doing it in your external is just the same thing. So yeah, well, I really appreciate your expression as Tall Man, and it helps, I feel like, all of us get to know you a little bit better. And I'm grateful for you to be experiencing a state where you're embodying this Tall Man mentality, and also like coming back to perhaps a community that once cast you out and didn't really see the importance of your work. So really grateful to have you here, spending your time as a part of this group, because I know that you could be just planting trees like all day, every day, but perhaps like the seeds that you're planting in this space, we will plant our own trees and seeds out in our world. So thank you. Anybody else want to hop in with their hero?
So for me,
We're having trouble hearing you a little bit, Hanu. It's kind of quiet.
how about now?
Great. Yes.
There we go. Forgot this thing. Like a combination of Thor and Groot. I'm like really feeling that like Thor being able to be that like strong godly being that can fly, do whatever needs done, like have that hammer that just like can fuck shit up, but just like hold that solid presence. But also this like Groot self that like plants those deep roots, and when shit's going down can like wrap my whole tree self around my family and be like, I got y'all. And so those are the two archetypes that I really feel for myself, and I'm really like working to embody and learning how to do that simultaneously, how to be this being who can fly and go wherever it needs done, address what's happening wherever it is, but also be this like super rooted being who can like hold set steady for my family and plant that deep. So I think those are the archetypes that I really feel resonate with, that I'm working to embody right now.
Beautiful.
I was envisioning sort of the same thing as Sue was. This just like, hopefully once the goals are achieved, I can just become this silver-haired hippie who just lives with the knowledge and content that humanity and the earth is at balance. And I feel like I would be my superhero self. And I felt this really overpowering sense of calm, and that we didn't have to stress as much as we are right now, because we are out of balance right now as a whole humanity. So hopefully we can get to that superhero stance. I also wrote a hero story, but it's really long, so I don't know if we have time to share, but I'm going to be putting it up on that challenge portal. So hopefully if you want to read it, you can read it there.
Yeah, I mean, up to you. If you want to share, you can share a condensed version too, if you feel like you can do it like that, but up to you.
I don't know, what do you think? Yeah, I'll just read it, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
You're fine. Okay, so it goes like this. So I grew up in a suburb of Buffalo, New York, in a very sheltered yet loving home. And as a child, I had a sense of confidence in the adults around me. I saw them connect with nature and recycle, and so I felt confident with my very limited understanding of the world that they were protecting the earth for longevity. I thought they knew and understood the native proverb, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." After all, I could see their love for me, and so I assumed that their love would encompass all of the earth and its occupants. I trusted that they would lead me down a path that would continue the work that they were doing. But as I grew, I soon realized how scrambled their priorities were. When it was finally time for me to step into the adult world, I was ready to be the kind of adult that would affect change in order to alter the trajectory humanity was on. I knew I could do better than the generation before me. I thought the best way to do this was to become a teacher and spark connection, creativity, collaboration, and contemplation into our youth. Surely that would help to change our trajectory. I've spent the last 13 years fostering the minds and hearts of elementary-aged children in Aurora, Colorado. Working in education, I was given ample time to hone my ability to solve problems by thinking outside of the box. And I believe that I have done my part in helping my students to blossom into problem solvers themselves. In the past couple of years, however, I began reflecting on how slow the change is when going about it through education alone. Sure, I have collected plenty of success stories to be proud about, but I have also harbored the traumas from the students that I was unable to do enough for. The disparities between the affluent and the rest started to feel like an insurmountable struggle. However, as a natural-born optimist and now fully trained problem solver, I simply continued to do my best every day at my job and spent my time away from school brainstorming ways that I could finally give a gift to the children of this planet instead of continuing to hand them more problems to solve. On March 11th, before coronavirus shut down all of the schools, I was contemplating my stance on social media and the impact it has had on society as a whole. I know that there is power in the internet, and I wanted to find a way to use that power for change. As I reflected on my students' interactions with the internet, I found that many were facing depression, boredom, and a lack of spark from the presence of social media in their lives. If I'm being honest, I was feeling very unhappy with my interactions with the internet as an adult. It seemed that although the power to connect was there, the current social media was consuming and corrupting the minds of the young and the older. That day, a seed fell into my mind, and I realized that I wanted to grow solution trees. This is going to be a place where people can shoot the breeze about problems in their communities and work together to solve them. It was easy for me to visualize how focused, solution-based global conversation could be attained so that people wanting to get together for the betterment of their communities would have an easy way to do it. Plus, people who are just sick of Facebook and the negativity could come to our space and find that doing good is really the best feeling there is. Maybe this could be the key to getting humanity to level up and find its new morality. Together with my partner, my partner and I set out to handpick what we thought were the most attractive and helpful parts of the technology we use daily. Then we took the time to curate those parts so that the user is in control and connected. With the infrastructure we will provide, we believe that we will expedite the process of change. Our entire mission is to bring people together for the betterment of their community and themselves. With the protests happening literally outside our door, we acknowledge that change is right here on our doorstep. People do need to come together and come together in a big way. Resources on this planet need to be viewed differently as economics are changing right before our eyes. Acts of kindness need to be celebrated, and solutions need an easier path towards the problems they can solve. Hopefully, solution trees will be my contribution to this societal shift. That's the end of my hero story.
Thank you for sharing, Molly. I'm actually really appreciative that you were able to go so in depth, and because it gives us all a picture of who you are and who you both are and what you're creating, and we want that. So I think it's a really beautiful time to be alive in a way where we can really take our ideas and create with them. We have all the tools we need to do so, and the resources around us. Just throw a good idea out there and let's get around it and make it happen. And we don't need anyone else to tell us how to do.
I hope you're going to plant some solution trees in the coming weeks and share with us on 1 million trees for Colorado.
We are. I sent you a message. I do want to get my class involved in planting those trees. So far, my ideas are to get apples, which have tree seeds inside them, like apple trees, or maybe pine cones. I'm not really sure how to start, but we're going to try something.
Yeah, reach out to me again. I saw it, but then I can't find it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's I remember somebody reached out to me, but I couldn't find it again. I don't know. Many portals.
Where's the best place to plant a tree, Michael? Where would you say is the best place?
The best place to plant a tree is in your heart. The second place to plant a tree is on your land. And then, you need to, the only way you will right relationships with planting the trees is if you have a vested interest in the health and well-being of it. It needs to be close proximity to you. I often tell people the only sacrifice area left on this continent, and we've made a mess of it, is the built environment. And we need to change that to be reflective of what healthy biodiversity looks like. And then we can worry about all the rest, but let's start there. So plant a tree in your home, at your school, in your parks. I'm all for guerrilla gardening. I think I can say that here. There is some riparian areas that are in major distress that need some attention. If you live in an apartment or a townhome or something, go out there and do it gangster style. Put in a tree next to the water and go back and be mindful of it, visit it. And the joke can be between you and the tree. Nobody else has to know where it came from.
Anyone else feeling called to share a hero?
Yeah, I just wanted to share so my superhero, I don't really know. I came in kind of late, so I don't really know what my name is, or and it's kind of a combination of a butterfly and Snow White and Saint Francis. And so I'm like this nature fairy that kind of circulates amongst all animals and plants. And I have the ability to communicate with them and have a deep spiritual relationship with them. And my superpower is the ability to, with a little wand, click somebody on top of the head with my little wand, and they have that ability to feel what I'm feeling. So because I just feel that people, especially in the United States, most people are just so disconnected from nature, really disconnected from nature.
Yeah, well, I really like that your superpower has something to do with the ability to communicate almost, or like connect almost in such a way that we can like kind of feel the same things, so that we're not such on a different level with people that just like seem to have such walls up. So I think that's totally attainable just through being you and doing what you need to do.
Well, and having the connection with plants and animals. That's like that's the really important part. Like really feeling that deep spiritual connection that you're part equal and you know, a universe together and not separate. Yeah. So not just people being separate, but like people being separate from nature. Like we're all one.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. And oh yeah, I wanted to share too, Molly, something that came up for me during your sharing was this idea of when you mentioned harboring traumas. Like I'm trying to identify, you know, traumas within myself, within my mental garden and landscape that like perhaps like are these weeds that should be pulled now and like given back into my compost pile, you know, like not necessarily like thrown in the trash or like thrown away, but I'm like is a trauma that I received from another person. Like I feel like it needs to be acknowledged within my landscape if it hasn't been processed or something like that. You know, if it's still existing in the world, like allow it to remain in the garden, in the landscape until it's, you know, processed appropriately, like space is made in the compost pile, so to speak, not just throwing it. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of processing that I'm working through as far as like allowing other people's dramas to kind of take over my garden and like pull me away from what I need to be doing and just be like stressed because of like little things that they're stressed out about. That I don't know. That's just what it brought up for me, so I thought I would share. But looking at those weeds, and are they weeds, and are they time to be pulled, is important.
Well, Dara, I can say as a horticulturist, and somebody who studied psychology a lot, unless you address those weeds in some ways, they're going to keep on coming back for you. So I like the idea of like putting them in your compost pile, because you can't just pull them out and like throw them away, because they're always there. They're part of your history in some form.
Mm-hmm. And in that way, they're not even necessarily bad, right? It comes up and it's like, oh, there's that weed. Maybe it is absorbing nutrients that just weren't really attended to. I'm just going to pull it and put it back in the compost bin, and it's not really serving my current mental landscape. It's not really the best for me, but it has a purpose in this space, so I'm going to move it over there.
Metaphor of composting too, because it's like once something happens to you, right, like a weed, something comes into your garden, but once you go through the process with it, then you're able to grow. It's able to nurture something else. So like, how can we learn through whatever experiences we've been through, good or bad, and go through the process with the ones that are bad enough in order to provide nutrients for the other projects that are growing something beautiful and bountiful.
I love that. That's a really, really great way to look at it too, and something that I didn't even really fully conceptualize. So thanks for sharing that reflection. Yeah, I mean, and even the processing of like, I don't know, like I feel like doing the process of pulling the weeds and knowing that that processing is ultimately going to have a positive effect is just a good space to be in. Just enjoying our chores and our problems with joy and just kind of like, you know, laughing through our days and realities is just a good way to live, I feel like. But yeah, anybody else have anything to share about their hero? I think that I don't necessarily have a ton more for today. Today was mostly kind of just that cultivation of the internal, rather than discrete topic points around the eco cities or the eco communities. So I do want to leave an open table if we want to get into anything else regarding the health of our inner ecosystems, whether it be from a, you know, physical, biological standpoint, mental, spiritual standpoint. If there's anything that people would like to discuss in that space, I'm open to it. Or if we want to talk about more of the regenerative eco city stuff, I would like to open the table for that too.
I've got a question for the group, because one of the things I've been considering for the Eco Challenge is to organize a couple of workshops, like bring some experts in to kind of hold workshops about how to help environmentalists take care of ourselves. And so that kind of goes along with this topic. And so two workshops that I was thinking about doing, and so I'm just kind of giving, like, trying to get a poll from the people here. One of them would be a friend who's does yoga and meditation, and to kind of do a workshop about that, how we can use yoga and meditation to reduce our stress. The other one is I've got a friend who's a counselor who deals specifically with people with PTSD. And I mean, for me, I know a lot about for me, what's going on with like politics and the environment. It's like really traumatic for me. So I don't know. I'm going to throw those two workshop ideas out there. And if anybody's interested, I'd like to just hear some feedback. And if you're not interested, that's good feedback too.
Yeah. I would say, like, I can say something to that. Like, I personally believe yoga and meditation, and for me specifically, Tai Chi and Qigong as well, have been the most important factors in keeping my mental state and personal state balanced. It's something that I would be happy to contribute, sharing within your workshop or participate in if you would like that, like help in that regard, for sure. I think that's super important to spread that to anyone who's not experiencing that.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that, I firmly believe that taking your aggression out on a punching bag, as opposed to allowing it to, be cultivated in your dark corners, the shadows, is not good. I leave everything in the gym and in the ring, and it really helps balancing me out for everything else. And then I practice the Tai Chi and the Qigong when I'm in public, because it's a lot easier for people. So you need breathing than looking for something to punch. So anyway, I just like to contribute that.
I would totally join that group too, just for the record.
And me too. I could definitely use it.
Me too. I would like to be part of this group.
Yeah, we're happy to have you all.
Well, as far as the organization, as far as this group and what's going forward with me, I'm not great at social media and the internet and all that stuff. I'm get up early and go be in nature, and then do the physical work on the landscape in town. And in the evening, with the few moments that I have to be on the internet, it's not to do social media or promote things. And I know it's a bad habit in this current paradigm, because everybody's like, I didn't know about it. You didn't do it. And I'm like, but I do have on the 18th with Pikes Peak Permaculture, a public speaking engagement. If you're in the Manitou or Springs area, we'll be putting in 4 forest gardens in the city of Manitou and promoting forest gardening. And I'll be talking about ecosystem services and getting people prepared for the equinox, the 21st, at 4 p.m. to take a moment and make a dedication to our relatives. On Saturday, I'll be planting trees in Manitou, and on Sunday and Monday, I'll be having ceremony with 2 Native American groups. And the hard part is we don't document ceremony. We don't share that via social media, but just know that our intention and our prayers will be being released. And I'm hoping that gains the momentum to inspire others who may see that as totally fine to document and share their ceremonies and their experiments. And I am completely open to that diversity existing through this experience. I'm not in any way saying that there's only one way to do anything. That's what this challenge is all about. that we come together and we accept our humanity where it's at, and we start thinking of what it looks like to be in right relationships with these relatives, the trees. And then once we understand all of the ecology and biodiversity that goes into making that successful, trees don't do it in a vacuum. They need all of that stuff to survive. Then we hopefully will recognize that that same prescription needs to apply to us. And this is, in one small way, part of building that and being a part of it. And so I, kicking and screaming, reluctantly have been here, but brought here. But if it wasn't for Dara, intentionally making an effort, I probably wouldn't have remembered that I'm supposed to be anywhere at any time, because the child in me much rather be in the woods. So.
Well, I think we'd all love to join you in the woods sometime soon, Michael, as well. I mean, like, this is a good way to begin our connection, but I don't think it ends here. So I want, like, this is an activation space, but I want, once we get into the right frame of mind, I want all of my activity to be out there planting trees and cultivating and spreading those seeds of awareness to others as well, and just passing it along. So, I'm glad that you recognize that this is also a seed to be planted here as well. I'm just really appreciative to have your presence in the space. Where is the 9/18 event in Manitou, and when?
Okay, I know it's at 6:00. I know it's through Pikes Peak Permaculture. I haven't even seen the event myself, so I just know I'm supposed to be there.
Someone will pick you up and bring you, and you'll start talking.
Well, now it's like Thursday. I got to go pick up 50 trees in Canyon City and bring them to Manitou Springs for the Friday event. And so those are the details that I'm focused on. All the other stuff is like, I know that I'll be there because I'll be in the truck with the trees. So I know I'll end up where I'm supposed to be.
You'll be there. Yeah, it's just a matter of how it went. I think I'll intentionalize being there somehow too. That's my goal. Like, I don't know how or exactly where, but like, I'll somehow be pulled down there as well, hopefully.
Yeah, if you have people down there, please have them sign up, because there is only a limited participation.
Cool.
For
I'll look into it after this.
There's one on Friday and there's one on Saturday in the Springs, and then there's another one on Saturday in Manitou. But that one will be real small. But anybody who wants to come, if you know anybody in Manitou who wants to come, they just need to be intentional. Reach out to me intentionally, and I'll be like, yeah, here's the address. Here's what we're doing. This is what time we're going to be here. We're planting 10 trees in Manitou. 10 trees in Monument and on Saturday afternoon. And then we're going to plant the others in Manitou in the morning. The other 40 will go into Manitou in the morning. And I think they have that volunteer list for that morning is already full, but not for the Friday night event, which is open still. So
awesome.
I'll share it with you, and you can share it with everybody.
Sounds perfect.
Okay.
I have one more question for you too. I really enjoyed how you shared how not only is it important to plant the seed, but also return to where the seed is planted and give it energy as well. With how many seeds you're planting on such a regular basis, how are you able to give all the seeds that you've planted the attention that is needed?
Well, the first step is to do it in the right way. And that only comes with time and practice and effort and intention and energy. And then two, my business model is set up to be a public utility ecosystem service model. People can voluntarily pay for me to do that. I've got about 10 people who actively support me so that I can expend at least 2 days doing that stuff. Right now, I am focused on a specific bioregion that I'm working with, and I just keep expanding my footprint. But after a year's time, I move on to another part, and then I'll let everybody know where I did it, because one, I don't want intrusion or disruption to change the pace. I don't think it doesn't work for me to be explaining myself while I'm doing it. It's like, it takes away from the metaphysics of it. And you know, and everybody, oh, you need to document, you got a photo. I'm like, that's not what I do. That's not what my native relatives do. We just do the work, and we almost don't even talk. There's no words. There's just this dance of energies, and that's what keeps me connected to it. And I can feel it. Like, I just went up to Larimer County last week, and in the 90s, I did a bunch of work up there, and I hadn't been up because of the fires. And luckily, the woods that I worked on were fine, but the woods that weren't were in distress. And it's just, bottom line is, it will never be right if we are not all going and doing this type of work. I really believe it's the new economics. Like, we need to get paid to be in relationship with this. I would love to create the education to show people what I do and then get them out there doing it on their own. But these trees cannot survive under the current stressors. They need us to be involved with them. And we were that way for literally since we got here. And it's only been recently that we haven't. A lot of people don't know Colorado's number one cause of death in 1930 was fire. I mean, that in and of itself should tell you, especially with what's going on right now. We had way more trees 500 years ago. Nobody wants to talk about that. And fire was not an issue. It wasn't. And it was because we were actively living amidst the forest garden. So, yeah, that's how you can get involved. That's how you can, I don't even remember what your question was. I'm sorry.
It was perfect. Yeah, the response was perfect. I appreciate that. Cool. Does anyone else feel called to share at this moment? Well, I think, oh, there we go. Hunter.
I'd love to, yeah, it's just that I would love to get it more involved, and I would love to see have a conversation about reforestation, about healing, like with stuff Michael's talking about, and beyond, like the seed balls, all of that. I'd love for us to have one of these conversations where we just go really deep into that. I was just feeling that earlier today. I'm like, we need to be talking about how we're, especially after all these fires, like Michael's talking about, especially after all these fires, how are we planting new growth in there? How are we helping to heal the biome, help to heal the soil, tapping into that fertility that the fire creates, and helping to heal the environment and create fertile growth for all of it. And so, Michael, I'm really loving what you're doing. I would love to know more. I would love to, yeah, we can initiate a conversation in this green wave space where we can really start to explore a lot of this in so much more depth and get even more organized. I'm feeling it coming through, and it's really cool what's happening in Manitou. Who knows, maybe I'll make it back to Colorado by then. But yeah, I would just love for us to keep going, and if there's anything I can do in that there, I'd love to be in communication about creating one of these taps for that.
Cool.
Were you able to hear that? I just realized, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that definitely came up to me when we're talking about even like Michael's transforming of the economy to be like, this is, we're getting paid to plant trees. The reality that I envision hopefully is once we start planting so many trees and realizing the abundance that flows through just the act of giving to life, we can escape the paradigm of money entirely. And we can just live in relationship with the land in such a way that the land is giving us what we need. And we don't need some externalized money that we can go to a store and purchase packaged products. We can just have that give and take with those kind of green economics and not some piece of paper that someone cut down a tree to give me, you know? So that's what I would like to see come forth for sure. Cool. On that note, we're hitting 12. Unless anyone, oh wait, do we have any other ending notes? Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming and sharing your presence in space. I'm always very activated by what you bring to the table, and it sets a good tone for my week. So I'm ready to go and change the world in a positive way, and I hope that you all are too. Much love.
Bye. Nice seeing everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
reach
you.
out to me if
I
you.
will. Yeah.
Manu, reach
Hi,
out to me.
everyone.
Molly, reach out to me again.
I'm definitely gonna reach back out, get those trees planted. I'm super excited for the 21st.
Thank you.